Pikachu might be the face of Pokemon, but it's not alone. Every generation we get a new Pikaclone. You know, those cute little electric rodents like Plusle, Pachirisu, Morpeko, and more. But in the ROM hack Elite Redux, every single one of them has been buffed, reworked, or even given new evolutions. Some of them go from joke Pokemon to genuine threats. Pokemon Elite Redux introduces a brand new twist on abilities. Every Pokemon now has 2 layers to their power: regular abilities and innate abilities. Regular abilities work like normal. Every Pokemon usually gets 3, except now you can manually toggle between your abilities options. On top of those, you get 3 innate abilities. Innates are always active. Think of them like built-in buffs that stack with whatever ability you choose. This means you're not locked into a single playstyle. The same Pokemon can work completely differently depending on your setup. So today we're breaking down every Pikaclone, what's new in Elite Redux, and how they compare to their normal competitive roles. Let's dive in. Let's start with the star, Pikachu and its family. In normal games, Pikachu is mostly a mascot, frail, a little too weak to see serious play outside of some lighthearted formats, but in Elite Redux, Pikachu does get some serious love. Its speed jumps from 90 to 95, but it gains some wild new abilities. For your base abilities that you can choose between Electrocytes, which boosts electric moves by 25%. You know, a nice consistent buff for all of your standard electric moves, and it does stack with other abilities and mechanics. You can also opt for Generator, which gives you a charge on switch in, which will of course double the power of your next electric type move, and this charge will also recharge in terrain. And lastly, you can also choose Electric Burst, which is essentially a more powerful version of Electrocytes, giving you a 35% buff to electric moves instead of 25%, but now at the cost of 10% recoil damage. High risk, high reward. Think of it like a built-in electric type life orb. For Pikachu's innates that are always active, you get Short Circuit, which is essentially the electric type version of Blaze, Overgrow, and Torrent. It also gets Static, which functions like it does in Vanilla, but now works on offense and defense. And lastly, you have the interesting ability called Ground Shock, which will allow electric type moves to hit ground types for resisted damage instead of being immune to electric moves. So no more being walled by ground types. As for Pichu, the pre-evolution, it stays mostly the same, though instead of Generator, it gets Plus. More on Plus later. Things really get wild with Partner Pikachu, the special mascot variant. Partner Pikachu gets more HP and even a Mega Evolution, which is aesthetically the Gigantamax version from Generation 8. Mega Partner Pikachu for its base abilities gets Ground Shock, Overcharge, which allows you to land super effective hits on other electric types and paralyze them, as well as Illuminate, so you can get off more accurate thunders and any other powerful moves that have relatively lower accuracy. Now for your innates, you actually get huge power, allowing Pikachu to be truly a mixed attacker, as well as Thick Fat for higher fire and ice resistances, as well as an ability called Thunder Call, which follows up all electric type moves with a 20 base power smite move. So basically, Pikachu in the Mega Partner role is no longer a joke. It can hit insanely hard and of course allows you to go physical, special, or mixed. Raichu also got reimagined in this ROM hack. Instead of being electric type only, it is now electric ground with a speed buff to 115. Electric ground gives Raichu amazing offensive coverage and some unique abilities like Earthbound, which is essentially the ground type version of Short Circuit, Torrent, Blaze, you get the picture, in addition to Generator and Electric Burst, which we have already covered. For your innates, you get Short Circuit, Static, and Ground Shock. For Raichu, you can run a Light Ball on it and run some powerful physical moves like Thunder Punch, Play Rough, and Seismic Fist, or go for some powerful priority like Fake Out and Spark, which is now a priority electric move. Or you can of course opt to go for your traditional special attack sets and run Thunderbolt, Surf, or try to disrupt with Nuzzle. As for Alolan Raichu, it's also faster at base 115. For Alolan Raichu, you can choose between Psychic Mind, which is again the psychic type version of Earthbound and Short Circuit itself, or you can of course opt for Electric Surge if you feel like setting up electric terrain. Combine that with its innate ability Surge Surfer, and naturally Alolan Raichu becomes a very dangerous sweeper that will thrive in this electric terrain. Combine that with other innates like Ground Shock and Levitate of course giving you that all-important immunity to ground type moves, and suddenly Alolan Raichu is a powerful glass cannon that is no longer walled or hit by certain checks. Alolan Raichu can run some powerful setup sweeping sets like Nasty Plot with Rising Voltage, you get coverage like Aurora Beam, you can hit incredibly hard with Psyshock, so on and so forth. So in this game, the Pikachu line goes from mascot to meta ready. Next up in Generation 3, we have the forgotten duo Plusle and Minun. And I'll say, normally these two are known more for their gimmick of cheering each other on than for real competitive play. I've even seen some people say that these are just essentially copy and paste versions of each other. But in Elite Redux, genuinely they finally shine. They have some unique typings and they play completely differently. Both are now electric and fairy types, and this gives them some really interesting offensive and defensive utility. Plusle leans into its role as a fast special attacker with abilities like Transistor, which boosts electric type moves by 50%, Lightning Rod, or Friend Guard, which will increase ally damage negation by 50% in those double battles. Plusle immediately gets more threatening thanks to its innate abilities, namely Speed Boost, which will of course quickly allow Plusle to outspeed opposing threats and break walls. So Plusle will naturally work great with a Focus Sash thanks to its frail nature, or of course you can lean into an Assault Vest or Tactical Vest. Tactical Vest in this game being the physical version of the Assault Vest. This will let you lean into moves like Rising Voltage, Dazzling Gleam, Electro Ball, or even Swift, which is now a 65 base power priority special move. Now again, you may think that Minun is just a lazy copy and paste version of Plusle, but at least in Elite Redux you'd be wrong about that, because it now fills an interesting physical attacker role. You get similar base abilities to Plusle, except instead of Friend Guard, you get Power Spot, which boosts ally damage dealt by 50%, and its innates are also similar. Minus instead of plus, Defiant instead of competitive, and of course you still get to retain that powerful speed boost. You'll be able to have fun running moves like Plasma Fists and Star Crash. Star Crash in this game is a fairy type double edge. Suddenly, Plusle and Minun can actually snowball into real threats on the battlefield, so what was once a kind of gimmick pair for the double battles of Generation 3 can now sweep entire teams if they are ignored. Jumping to Generation 4, there's Pachirisu, famous mostly for winning the 2014 World Championships. Normally, it's a bulky little niche pick in lower tiers, but in Redux it gets a big buff. 50 points to its base stat total, and that bulk is now concentrated into special defense, making it a sturdy pivot. Its abilities also synergize extremely well for support. You get Gluttony, Electro Surge, and now you get Pickup, which cleans up hazards on entry. As for your innates, you get Fur Coat for some awesome bulk, Volt Absorb for electric immunity, and even Regenerator for increased longevity in long battles. Gluttony will of course allow you to run some really fun recycle strats with berries, while Volt Switch will allow you to stay mobile, tank hits, and rack up Regenerator heals. And you combine that with its innate hazard clearing role thanks to Pickup, and suddenly Pachirisu is a reliable defensive and utility option instead of just your traditional meme pick. Emolga is another fan favorite from Unova that usually struggles in competitive formats, but Redux reworks Emolga into a speedy special attacker. It gets a plus 47 overall to its base stat total, now sitting at 125 speed and 110 special attack. With abilities like Generator, Gluttony, or Electrocytes, you have the option to lean into more offensive heavy sets or some berry utility sets. As for your innates, you get Motor Drive and Aerodynamics, which gives you an immunity to flying and electric type moves. Emolga becomes a unique flying type counter and a fast pivot that can actually threaten teams. You can opt for Electro Ball that will hit especially hard given Emolga's speed, especially after a Motor Drive proc or agility usage. Emolga also gets access to Energy Ball, which will of course provide some nice coverage for ground types. So Emolga still keeps its personality, but now it actually packs the stats to back it up. Dedenne was always seen as one of the weaker Pikaclones. Cute, but frail and underwhelming. But don't worry, like many of these others, Elite Redux completely changes that, because first and foremost, Dedenne itself gets buffed with higher special attack and higher special defense. As for its abilities, you get Galvanize and Pixelate as options, which will of course let you turn normal type moves into powerful stab options. As for your innates, this allows you to once again lean more into the consumable berry builds with Gluttony, as well as an awesome ability called Retriever, which will actually refresh consumed items on switch out. But the big surprise in this game is that Dedenne gets an evolution. It evolves into Irrationate at level 45, and with a 554 BST, a very powerful fairy electric typing, and access to priority fairy moves thanks to its base ability option called Pretty Privilege, which is essentially the fairy type version of Gale Wings, Irrationate is genuinely no joke and a viable option for any team. It also keeps the same powerful innate abilities as Dedenne, so it's bulky, it hits hard, and finally gives Dedenne a glow up worthy of its cute design. In Generation 7, Togedemaru has always kind of been a quirky pick. It's fast, it's cute, it's spiky, but not much else. In Elite Redux though, it does become a legitimate tank. First and foremost, its bulk is improved, and its new abilities give it a ton of utility. Impenetrable makes you immune to hazards, status, and recoil, much like Magic Guard, or you can lean into Sturdy or even Lead Coat, which increases physical damage negation by 40% at the cost of 10% of your speed. Togedemaru's innate abilities really let you lean into its unique design. Loose Quills will set spikes on the field when you get hit by a contact move, while Lightning Rod will of course give you an electric immunity, while Iron Barbs will of course hurt attackers on contact. You can pair Sturdy with consumables like a Salic Berry to turn this into a powerful reverse sweeper, or you can just really lean into the bulk and allow its bulk to set you up with items like a weakness policy. You can run Spiky Shield on here, you can run Supercell Slam, Iron Head, or even Priority Spark, and suddenly Togedemaru can fill both some offensive and defensive roles depending on how you want to build it. Now as for Generation 7, we can't forget about our beautiful Mimikyu. Technically a Pikaclone, I guess technically not, I don't know. But you know what, I'm going to cover it anyways. Mimikyu sees no changes to its base stats, but it gets some fantastic abilities that once again lean into its unique typing and design. Ethereal Rush grants you a 50% speed boost in the new ghost type enhancing weather condition called Fog, effectively functioning like Chlorophyll or Swift Swim. Guilt Trip will sharply lower attackers' attack and special attack on fainting, while Keen Edge is Keen Edge. As for your innate abilities, you of course keep Disguise, which will totally protect you from one attack, but this now resets in the Fog. You also of course get Rattled, as well as a new ability called Phantom Pain, which will now let your ghost moves hit normal types for neutral damage, which is essentially a reverse version of Scrappy. Mimikyu remains as powerful as ever with its builds. You can run Life Orb sets, or you can set up with Swords Dance and really lean into your Ghost and Fairy Stab, or I like going for a pure Keen Edge build by leaning into Night Slash, Shadow Claw, and new slash options like Pixie Slash and Shocking Edge. In Generation 8, Morpeko is another case where the gimmick of changing forms each turn made it fun but not competitively viable. But of course, once again, Elite Redux fixes that problem. Morpeko gets stat buffs across the board that make it faster and bulkier. Its abilities include some of the usual suspects that we've seen so far, in addition to Nocturnal, which buffs dark damage and reduces incoming dark and fairy damage, while Hunger Switch will do what it always does, change between full and hangry mode every turn. While in its hangry form, Electric Burst turns into Doom Blast, which is the dark type version of that ability. Nocturnal will turn into Electrocytes, and Friend Guard turns into Power Spot. But just like Dedenne, Morpeko now evolves. At level 45, Morpeko becomes Morpeko. With boosted stats and stronger offensive presence, it becomes a true revenge killer and a late game sweeper. Base Morpeko gets some of the other great abilities that we've seen so far, while for its innates you get the always useful Magic Bounce and Lightning Rod. Hunger Switch turns into Two-Faced, which functions just like Hunger Switch, but now gives an extra 35% buff to electric and dark moves. While in its hangry form, Morpeko maintains the same abilities, but Pickup turns into Menacing Situation, which gives you a 20% chance to inflict a new status condition called Fear. Finally, in Generation 9, we saw our newest Pikaclone line, Pawmot and its evolutions, but in Elite Redux, they're much faster across the line. Pawmot and Pawmot both get speed boost, and Pawmot becomes solid with a 500 base stat total. The entire line rocks the same abilities and innate abilities. For your base abilities, you can opt for Adrenaline Rush, which is the speed type Moxie, or you can go for Iron Fist or Generator. Your innates give you Volt Absorb, Volt Rush, which is a +1 priority to electric moves at full HP, much like Gale Wings, and Avenger, where you do 50% more damage the turn after a teammate faints. Pawmot can actually hit surprisingly hard with an Expert Belt, and leaning into powerful stab, electric, and fighting type options, but you can of course go for a pure Iron Fist set by giving it the Punching Glove and slapping on Plasma Fists, Drain Punch, Mach Punch, and even some coverage like Ice Punch. Or if you really want to go crazy, you can go for Lepa Berry and Revival Blessing strats. So the Pawmot line, no longer just a cute fighting hamster, it is a genuine powerhouse. So there you have it. Every Pikaclone reworked and buffed in Elite Redux, from Pikachu's Mega Evolution to Plusle and Minun's Fairy Makeover to Dedenne and Morpeko getting full evolutions. These little mascots have never been stronger. So tell us, which Pikaclone do you think got the best glow up?